Congratulations, Bernard. What a fall. All the way down the stairs. It's wonderful. But then you always were good at falling from a great height.
Can't compare, my dear Geoffrey, with your famous death scenes, which you have played so brilliantly. And for so many years, bitch.
Hey, sinners, I'm Shannon.
And that means I must be Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts.
Hooray!
So I hope everybody's having a great week. We are starting our oh my god, I can't say our October. That is our October list. So I know we announced that we were going to do something, a bunch of special movies, and we are kicking it off with
Dun, 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 dun.
Night of the Living Dead. It's from 1968.
Welcome to a night of total terror. Night of the Living Dead. The dead who live on living flesh. The dead whose haunted souls hunt the living. The living whose bodies are the only food for these ungodly creatures. Night of the Living Dead. More shattering than your strangest nightmare.
A jewel, a classic, and if I'm not mistaken, in the registry of films that I say are good. I don't. It's in like what's the top 100 thing that they do.
As far as like horror movies go?
No, the one that at Arby's. No, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Like there's so many lists. Actually, I don't recall, but it's up there.
I think what I'm thinking of is that I want to say the AFI. It's like the top 100 movies of all time, and Night of the Living Dead is definitely in there.
Right.
That also could be completely false.
We're saying it, so it's true.
Come at me, interwebs.
Prove us wrong. But yes, but if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead by chance, basically here's a quick synopsis for you. So, a group of survivors barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a horde of flesh-eating ghouls. Nice and simple, right? So, this movie, it was just on so many levels so good, and another basically another miracle movie, if you will, right? It was a bunch of guys that didn't really have a lot of experience. They were just getting their feet wet with how to put together films and things of that nature. And the story itself it's literally was a group of guys coming together to make a movie. And when you watch interviews many years later afterwards with George Romero, he was kind of the one voted to be the director, and he is also the one that kind of wrote the story. He did admit that he kind of ripped off I Am Legend, the novel. Yeah. So he did, with a few tweaks of his own here and there, but he literally used the words "I ripped it off."
You gotta love George Romero.
You love George Romero, but he was just he's everyone voted for me to be the director, but he's like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
It's one of my favorite stories of just people getting together and it's let's put on a show. In this circumstance, let's put on a movie. This reminds me very much of you got Night of the Living Dead, small independent film, and then fast forward to I guess it was 99 and the Blair Witch Project. Yeah. Small independent, but well crafted, and look what impact that had. Yeah. Because Night of the Living Dead becomes the big highest money maker for a small film at that time.
All the odds being really against them, which we'll get into the nitty gritty on that, but it almost one of those movies that should have been buried. Yeah. And it shouldn't have existed. And the fact that it got to the level that it got to it's an incredible feat. and what it's inspired since then, which is clearly anywhere and everywhere. It doesn't even matter how old you are. You know what, when we say The Living Dead or The Walking Dead, or, technically no pun intended with the title there, but you hear zombie, you know what it is. In 1968, they had no idea what a zombie was. What were the rules, and they made it up on their own.
I think the closest thing that you would have had would have been Bela Lugosi's White Zombie. I Walked with a Zombie as well. The zombies in these movies are like walking coat racks.
Yeah.
There's really very little threat to the zombie. They're more like tragic figures, put under a spell, which, if you could draw a line from those movies to possibly like something like Serpent in the Rainbow.
Right.
Where
right.
you're I don't want to say possessed, but you're put under a spell.
Yes.
So to speak. But it's 68. Look, we'll talk about it culturally as well. We're in the middle of the Vietnam War. There's a lot of turmoil at home, and Romero and his crew come together and they make this film with a very limited budget, with the resources that they had, which turned out to be, a pretty dilapidated farmhouse that was going to be torn down anyway.
Yeah.
And and they just use their creativity and their imagination.
Yeah.
Now you might throw a shoe at me, but Night of the Living
Dead. I took them off.
I love Night of the Living Dead for what it created.
Yeah.
You think about the inception of the zombie subgenre and where it has gone to, especially in the past 5 years. With The Walking Dead and a lot of the movies, which we'll mention, a lot of the good movies that most of which are not even U.S.-based productions. There's a lot, like Train to Busan, South Korea.
Yeah.
One of the most exciting zombie movies to come out in the past couple of years.
I enjoyed that one a lot, actually.
28 Days Later, Danny Boyle, UK production,
I kind of argue that one, though.
As zombie or...
I don't say zombie.
Okay,
they
all
do
right.
Not. They, at the end, if you haven't seen 28 Days Later by now, skip this part, but...
I'm a 20 Weeks Later fan. I like that better.
Okay.
But I agree with you. You're right. You're right.
By the end of the movie, they're starving to death. They're very much alive. To me, that's more. It's just more rabid, right? It was like a rabies. They don't say rabies necessarily per se.
They say you're infected with rage.
Yes.
That's what it is.
That was a really good accent, actually.
That was from my buddy Roy. We actually saw that movie at the Tribeca Film Festival before it launched, across the United States. We saw the Tribeca Film Festival,
fun.
and the guy who gets macheted to death by...
Oh.
Gosh, her. Son of a bitch. Gonna fix it in post, but we won't. She's such a great actor, and her name is... She's Moneypenny in the fucking James Bond movies, and she's so good at it.
She's very good. Yeah, she was great in those too.
But the dude was sitting in front of me and Roy at the movie.
Really?
And
Naomi Harris.
How could we forget you?
So sorry.
Sorry. Naomi Harris was not there, but Danny Boyle and Alex Garland introduced the movie.
Oh, cool.
So I didn't get to meet him, but I get to see him with my eyeball sockets. Alex Garland, Danny Boyle, and then the best thing was the guy in front of us who gets macheted to death. He brought his friends there. And he was such a nice guy, because I overheard him talking to his buddies, and he's like, "Hey, there I am. Don't get too used to me." Sure enough,
me too much.
Yeah, 5 minutes later, he was dead. But I'm sorry, guys. I'm taking us all over the roadmap here. But the point I wanted to make to Shannon was, I don't necessarily love Night of the Living Dead for what it is, because I find that it's highly melodramatic. It's a very well made independent movie, and it's a movie of the time. But I love Night of the Living Dead. It will be a classic to me for what it created, and what it grew into. I think, for me personally, of the Dead trilogy, I am a huge Dawn of,
Okay.
and I really love Day of.
Okay.
And Night of is actually my least favorite.
Okay.
But that I might just be a dumb jerk because maybe that has to do with
Fuck you for having an opinion.
yeah, so much, gosh dang me. The budget for Night of, I think we're at 114. Dawn of was only $500,000. But it's what he did with that $500,000, especially the like, plugging it into a mall. And then I think for Day of, I think it might have been like 3.4. All insanely low budget movies, but just like it I almost can't wrap my head around. George Romero and John Russo came up with this story, and they shot this film, and it caught on. It had this cultural moment, and it caught on, but it created this genre.
Yeah.
Like, they created it. It's so bananas to me that it started in 1968 with this small little film, and then it goes to a place of, the Walking Dead franchise, which I think is like 7 to 9 to possibly 11 shows, and they spend between $2 and $3 million an episode.
Look what culture that created too,
It's
though.
bananas.
The Walking Dead, I don't know if this still goes on, I'll admit, because I've been to only like 1 or 2 of them, and I never really looked them up ever again, just due to life. But they created a whole convention based on it. It was the Walker Stalker cons.
What the
So they so the first Walker Stalker con I got to go to featured some original
What?
people of Night of the Living Dead.
What?
Including Bub from Day of the Dead.
Day of. Yep. Yeah.
my brain did a little glitch there.
You
I
gotta
apologize.
be kidding me.
But they were so nice. Yeah, so I met Barbara, Judith O'Day. I met and I believe Carl Hardman was there too. Almost positive he was there.
Harry?
Yeah. Yes.
My least favorite character of Night of the Living Dead, but that's on purpose.
But that
Harry's
is on
an
purpose.
ass.
That's who he played.
But he does it so well. He really nailed it.
Oh, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. It was Kyra Shawn, the girl who played Karen.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's okay. So let's get into it because I have some questions. I have some questions that I wonder if you have answers to.
Okay.
Because the zombies in Night of the Living Dead, they use things. Like Karen, the girl, kills Helen, her mom, with the garden trowel.
Yes, but that was a really interesting scene too, by the way.
Okay.
So they when you hear Kyra Shawn talking about it, she basically goes they had her, cut it in a way that she's approaching her mom. And then she gets down, and she's actually like going at it,
Yeah.
right? So they actually had her stabbing a pillow,
Okay.
and she, and kind of funny, but she's just like, yeah, she's like, so I just, because they never yelled cut, they're like, no, keep going or whatever. So she just kept stabbing this pillow. She's like, I got to the point where I was getting so tired. But she was like, oh my God, only like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah, like a
at the
12-year-old
time.
or something like that.
So she but she was just so happy to be in a movie. She she's like,
I
the
don't
whole
blame her.
experience was so much fun. It was exciting for her, but that scene, yeah, she's stabbing a pillow, and that's why she was able to kind of go like all full force.
They also had the zombie that picks up a brick and breaks the window to get at Barbara in the cemetery.
Yes.
So, but here's the thing, sinners. None of these things matter because George Romero created that, and then he has the ability to dismantle it in Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, then they... I feel like Dawn of the Dead, then they become the zombies that we're used to, of just, like, shambling and can't use any implements. And then, of course, then you... All right, this is when this is going to get spicy. Then you have 2004's Dawn of the Dead remake, where the zombies are like Flojo fast, and now we have fast zombies. But look, that's up to the discretion of the filmmaker. You can create any kind of zombie that you want to. I just thought it was interesting that I had really missed that previously, that they're using these things,
right?
And that it didn't really cement with Romero. He completely changed it.
Well, actually, technically, I actually got into a lot of arguments, and this movie will do a deeper dive. So I'll try to keep this part short for Land of the Dead. Do you know how many arguments I got into with people about they're like, no, that's stupid. Zombies can't learn because Land of the Dead was supposed to be like what 20, 30 years after the apocalypse. So now we figured out a way to live or whatever as best we can with these creatures on the outskirts, right? So the whole premise was one all of a sudden learning, basically. So their old tricks aren't working anymore, things of that nature. And I argued with so many people that are like, yo, that's so stupid. Zombies don't learn. And I'm like, have you watched the old films? Yeah, exactly. They're using tools in the original fucking movie that started it all. And then there's Bub from Day of the Dead, where they were literally like, can they learn? And he fucking does. So it's like, dude, he started this idea.
He can do whatever the hell he wants. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what, I got into so many arguments with those people just from that movie alone. But you can argue with every single chapter, if you will. But whatever.
This is where I'm like, but
now I'm getting hot.
horror fanatics, we're not like those weird superhero fanboys. Our arguments make sense.
Because I'm right and you're wrong.
We're all just so crazy.
Yeah.
We're also, but we're passionate about what we love.
But I digress.
So please, I'm sorry, I took us on a tangent.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty easy synopsis, which is part of the charm of Night of the Living Dead. One of my favorite kind of movies, which is a siege movie.
Yeah.
I love a good siege movie. Mm-hmm. So, and I did want to point out though. Shoot, and it just went straight out of my mind. Oh no, I told you that filmed in Pittsburgh. They used what they had readily available,
including the locals. They just would drive up to people's houses, like, "Hey, would it be in my movie?" And a lot of people were like, "Sure."
This is what I love.
And that's exactly what. That's all it took. It doesn't matter.
This is what I absolutely adore about Romero.
They sold like next to no money for it, but they were like, "We don't care." But now they have the credibility to talk about it, and to them, that's enough.
Yeah, my man loves Pittsburgh, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to shoot movies in Pittsburgh, and you know where I'm not going to leave? Pittsburgh. I mean, just absolutely adore Romero. And then his, we'll get into it. I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but then his eventual friendship with Tom Savini, I just think it's adorable.
It is adorable. Okay, one big happy family.
Yeah.
There's so much to break down with this movie. I mean, like where do you even begin on a legend like this, right? So, well, we talked about where George Romero got the idea from. They were working on it. I believe they didn't even have like a finished script when they started. They were like so excited that they were just like, yeah, whatever. But I think they were writing it like still like while trying to get everything off the ground. Look, scout locations, how where we're getting the money for this type of a thing, and whatnot. But yeah, how do you? Oh, and also too, we should probably mention that the entire time that they were making this movie up until the very end. Obviously, this is like an infamous story at this point, but it was called The Night of the Flesh Eaters. Originally, yeah. So the script itself, George Romero wrote it, and he said right from the very beginning when he ripped off I Am Legend, his title was Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Okay.
Now, when it gets down to it, they film it, they finish it, they do whatever. They finally get it to the right studio that will pick it up, and they go, well, here's the thing. There's already a movie called The Flesh Eaters.
Oh, snap.
So now we might get it confused. Okay. Now, what happened was, they did copyright Night of the Flesh Eaters. In deciding to change it from Night of the Flesh Eaters, I think the guy in the studio, I forget his name, I will figure it out after I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know, but he changed it to Night of the Living Dead, and I don't think Romero at the time thought he didn't really love it, but he was like, yeah, okay, sure. They ripped off the trademark, and they never put it back.
That's why it's public domain.
And it's been public domain ever since.
That's why it also shows up. They're playing it in so many other horror movies because they don't have to pay for it.
Yes.
Oh,
Which in a way,
snap.
but think about it this way. I mean, granted, that kind of sucks. Yeah, you lost out on money because they've never been able to see that ever.
Oh, that hurts.
So,
that hurts.
and that was really the reason why of the, I mean, I don't want to say shot for shot, but practically shot for shot 90s remake.
You know, I watched that. I watched that this week to see because that was directed by Tom Savini,
Yes.
based off of the
Romero
rewrote a script.
It was an attempt to get some sort of money back.
All right. I mean,
that was technically why that movie exists in the first place. But yeah, Night of the Living Dead has been public domain. But think about it. That movie got passed around like a friggin' beach ball at a Nickelback concert. For
its own horror movie. And I'm sorry, Nickelback, I'll kiss your face. You seem like nice people. I'm sorry. That was good, though. You're getting an air high five for that one.
but think of all the free publicity it got, and I think that's part of the reason why it grew into this atom bomb that it created. Can't stop laughing.
Let me give you a little preview of day one on the set of Dawn of the Dead. Is Romero going? You're immediately going to the trademark office.
Oh yeah. You're copywriting the shit out of everything else I fucking do. That was a lesson learned. I'm sure.
They had to have made movie, maybe not theatrically off of the 90s Tom Savini one, but that movie was on cable every goddamn day. It came out in 90.
Because you can.
In 91, it was on HBO 4 billion times. Oh my god.
And that's why.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so that's the story of the public domain.
All right, so wait, can we do, because my Romero knowledge is probably not as good as it should be. Can we just do a quick, as we're both frantically looking at George Romero IMDb? So he's got the quadrilogy, because I forgot about Land of.
Yeah.
Did he also do Diary of?
Yes.
So
yes.
What do you call a 5? A quintrilogy?
So quintuplets are yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're just creating words, I feel like. But okay.
No, a quintuplets is 5 kids, so it's
quintrilogy.
Yeah,
okay.
So I do know that. I don't know everything, but I do know that terminology is true.
I do know that Brad Anderson, who directed Session 9, is directing the next installment of the Living Dead franchise. Cannot for the life of me.
Living Dead or Dead?
Living Dead.
Okay.
Romero, not Return of the.
Okay.
We're talking about the quintrilogy, so now it will be a sex trilogy.
I think so.
I mean, that's
an interesting word.
It is a very interesting word. Brad Anderson, have at it. I want to say it's called Legacy of the Dead. I don't know, but I definitely know he's attached to it.
I do think you're right on that. That sounds familiar to me.
All right, so let's just get into Romero for a hot second. So, our man George has his Living Dead franchise. It's so good. Look, you can pick your favorites, and are they all as strong as the preceding movie? Maybe not. You know, there's point of diminishing returns as they go further, I feel, but that's my own dumb opinion. But then he's got the Crazies, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then he's got Did he direct Knight Rider with Ed Harris and Tom Savini? It's a weird movie.
I know he did Martin.
About motorcycle performers at like Renaissance fairs.
Okay.
And they're like their own community. And I just remember seeing it in the 80s, and even as I was seeing it, I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, but it's not a bad movie.
1979?
Night Riders?
No, wait, that's a TV movie.
Yeah, this would have been like maybe 83?
Wait, hold on. Knight Rider? Like, there's a 1932, 39... 1939 with John Wayne, interesting. Let me see... 1992. No, that's definitely a Japanese movie.
This...
I don't know. Am I looking up Knight Rider or like knight as in like knight in shining armor?
Knight in shining armor.
Oh, got it.
Oh,
okay.
snap. You know what? I forgot he did the Dark Half.
I never saw that.
I totally forgot about that. All right, Shannon. All right. Sinners, here a little peek behind the curtain. Maybe prep isn't our strong point.
Well, here's the thing. The prep for our initial topic at hand, we are solid. But
we
then
are.
When we branch off, we're not ready for it.
Because he's got Survival of the Dead, he's got Diary of the Dead, and then we get into the ones... Then
I forgot about Survival of the Dead. Yeah,
So did I. So did I. He did... Okay, so he's got the Dark Half. Oh my god, Two Evil Eyes? He did that? He did Monkey Shines.
Yes.
I'm about ready to throw my phone at you, and I don't know why. I'm getting very excited here. Very, very excited. All right, then we get into... I honestly, we might have to quit the podcast. He did Creep Show.
We're not gonna.
We're not gonna. You all know, Sinners were so excited. They were like, oh, finally.
Him and
Son of
Tom
a
Savini, right?
biscuit. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Let me just calm the hell down. So we've got Night of the Living Dead in '68. Then we have, which is kind of getting a touch of a resurgence lately, and I really don't know why. Season of the Witch. So he directed Season of the Witch. Never saw it myself, but it's just, I think it's got a little heat lately because it popped up on Shudder. Then he directs The Crazies, which I saw the original. Mm-hmm. I actually prefer the remake with Timothy Olyphant and Melissa George. Came out, let's say, like maybe 2010-ish, around there. Very solid horror film.
I think both of them are in their own different way.
For sure.
The original Crazies to me was a lot more about politics.
Yeah, so the original for sure.
Yeah, and so if you look at it at least on that angle, in that avenue, then it's a very interesting movie.
And then the remake is more of a straight up horror show. Let's just get some thrills.
We'll go more into the disease a little bit more.
Then this is where I might lose a couple of sinners.
Okay.
Then he directs the amusement park in '75, and that got all crammed up everyone's ass last year because it got a restoration in terms of they finished it.
Yes.
Because it was unfinished.
Yes.
And then it was released on Shudder, and then I watched it, and it was bad. It was just...
A lot of people said that. I think it was just, I don't know, maybe it wasn't meant to be finished, and you should have left it alone.
The opinions of the people on this podcast are completely their own. Please direct your hate mail towards Sean for this one. Then he directs, then we've got Martin, which is a good vampire...
A lot of people love that one, yeah.
...ish movie. Then he's got Dorney, Night Riders, like we said, then Creep Show. I mean, look, I had forgotten that he really did direct some movies, none of which hit, like, stratospherically, but he's got a really impressive horror resume, especially
really
Creep
does.
Show, which we will do.
That is one of my favorites.
Maybe sooner than later.
Maybe.
We have our October sussed out. Why don't we do Creep Show in November?
Okay.
Because I'm getting excited about that now.
Me too.
Creep Show's so fucking good.
It's amazing.
So, all right, you know what? Look, guys, I just wanted to point out that George A. Romero, outside of the Dead movies, has a really good film resume.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Filmography, if you will.
Yeah, if you took the Dead movies out, he'd still be a solid guy.
Yeah, for
love
sure.
It. I absolutely love it. From all accounts of every single piece of research that I've done, anyone who spoke of Romero, anyone who worked with him, this dude was an absolute sweetheart of a man.
That's what they said, yeah.
You know, and we've spent the past 6 podcasts bringing up a director or an actor and then immediately going, scandal recognized. All right, we have to separate the art from the artist. This is a very welcome, refreshing episode
nice,
to do.
Very refreshing.
Just like, I mean, how are you not going to love a guy who's like, I'm a Pennsylvania native. Pittsburgh's where I live, and this is where I'm going to shoot all my movies.
He's actually, I believe, a Brooklyn native.
Get the hell out.
Yeah, he grew up in Brooklyn. I'm almost positive.
Like most of the world.
Ended up going to Pennsylvania and falling in love with Pennsylvania. So
now I love him even more.
But I think that's a common misconstrue. Because he mentions like he grew up like we're pretty much like the West Side Story. there was just like gangs everywhere basically, but he said they mostly left him alone for whatever reason. So he must have just had clout, I guess. I don't know.
Picture George Romero with his gigantic glasses, which I love and I must own. I have to get a pair of Romero glasses. But picture him skipping out of his high school doing like high kicks and snapping his fingers. Yeah, he didn't do that. Sinners, that never happened. That never happened.
But it's fun to think that.
All right, so we've got. I just want to touch on his filmography. Great director in his own right, even outside of the Dead movies. We're back to Night of the Living Dead, so he's shooting it on the cheap, using all the resources free, resources at hand. You want to talk about what's going on?
I was just going to say, I want to talk about some scenes.
Yeah, okay, let's have at it.
So obviously everybody loves the opening scene, which they recreate in the 90s version too. You know, the brother and sister going to the cemetery. You know, the infamous scene where you see the very first zombie ever.
Yeah,
and,
oh my god.
And at first they just think it's just some weird old guy, hence his brother immediately making fun of him. They're coming to get you, Barbara. There's one right now. And she's like, shut up!
Is it a hot take if we say Johnny, complete dick?
The poor guy.
With his dumb driving gloves.
Yes.
Well, you used to really be scared here.
Johnny,
You're still afraid.
stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny. Oh! No! No! Johnny! Help me!
Great callback, though. Great callback when Barbara gets it. Spoiler alert to a movie that's 800 years old, sinners. Sorry. Barbara doesn't make it.
Unfortunately not. But I do like that scene a lot. This is when you see the zombie kind of chasing after her, and using the brick to try to get into the car.
You just freaked me out when you said that we see the first zombie ever.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That's just so crazy.
And I feel like I wrote his name down, and I apologize. I forgot. I don't know what I did with my notes just yet, but I will look him up in just a second.
Because you just think about it. You just think about all the different horror genres and subgenres and tropes, and this one is so. I mean, when you think about it, it's so new.
Yeah.
I mean, that started in 1968, and you're going to talk about, like, vampires, and who even knows how far vampire lore goes back? I mean, like, it's got to be...
It's pretty far.
It could possibly be BC.
Yeah, it could... Yeah,
I don't know. Like, there's some sort of Aramaic vampire. They were calling it something else. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? All right, sinners, I gotta watch myself, because I start getting the red yarn out, and Shannon saw this last week, and, when I go on my tangents, and I get the conspiracy board out, no, I gotta just shut up.
Like a yo-yo.
Back to you. Back to you.
So, of course, everybody loves this opening scene because it's just iconic, obviously, in every way. I personally actually, there's a favorite scene of mine that happens actually right after that. Now, there's a scene where she finds the farmhouse. And she, gets herself inside, basically. Now, as soon as she gets inside and she leans up against the door, okay, if anybody can picture or remember this
Just
scene.
watched it yesterday, so I'm with you. I'm following.
And it only works in black and white, because they did restore this film in color, and it doesn't work. At least in my opinion, it doesn't. However, so the black and white specifically version I'm talking about, the shading on this scene, you only see her and the door. Everything else, it's not completely blacked out, obviously, but the way the shading and the shadows, if you will, go.
Yeah.
And I just love how it's just her And right now, in this moment, she just lost her brother.
Yep.
She is like, what, 3 hours from home, I think they mentioned?
And she's in shock.
And she's in shock, and she is fucking alone.
Yeah.
She is alone. It's just her in this house, at least for that one moment. And I don't know, it's heartbreaking, it was sad, and it was just so cool the way that was done. I know it's like, nothing's happening in this scene, and we just got over like this crazy, like, what the fuck was that? Like, what's going on? But I just loved the cinematography of that shot.
I agree with you 100%. There are some beautiful shots in this movie, especially because it's black and white. I mean, the shadows that are captured, the lighting and the shadows that are captured, and the way Romero plays with that. And granted, could some of these have been happy accidents? Sure, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if
probably.
everything was intentional, but that's sometimes the luck of and the joy of filmmaking, is that you capture these things that are just happenstance.
Yeah.
But
like,
then they're
I don't think
immortalized.
I don't know if they meant to do that. Like, oh, I want the lighting to
But
be
it's a
perfect
gorgeous
just around
shot.
her. But it's a gorgeous shot. So whether that was an accident or not, yeah, it's definitely a happy accident, if you will.
That the farmhouse, because we're talking about how we had the remake in 90, of course, color movie, and with more money thrown at it and more resources thrown at it, and Tom Savini does an incredible job. I mean, it's really, the 90s movie is more of it's almost like a Tom Savini practical effects workshop.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of great practical effect work in that movie that he's really showing off, and I'm there for it all day long. I don't necessarily think the remake is a great movie, but as far as like what they could do between 1968 and 1990 special effects, that's really what the 90 movie is all about. The 68 film, the creepiness and the dread of those initial scenes of Barbara alone in the house, and my one beef with the movie is that the music at times is just so incredibly melodramatic that it's just hammering you over the head. Now, it works. It definitely works. And if I have to put myself as a theater goer in 1968 seeing this for the first time, it's just like what we talked about with Psycho. You're seeing something new.
Yeah.
Because you're taking all these like melodramatic moments, which is very typical for a movie in 1968. You're going to have the heavy music cueing your emotions, and you're going to have all that, but then you're going to layer this, what you've never seen before, of zombies eating people. And I mean, theater goers must have been like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, what the fuck is happening right now?
What am I watching?
Yeah.
What, wait, they're what now?
Yeah.
And then there's really no explanation. There's these, offhanded explanations of, they actually first, the radio is calling these zombies assassins, that the country is being overtaken by murderous assassins.
Right.
Which is very much 68 at the time with the death of Bobby Kennedy, and JFK in 62. And then as it progresses, then
it was a heavy time, for sure.
Yeah, and then
and it only gets heavier, but we'll get into that.
Then the explanation further on, when they finally get the TV working, is that a NASA satellite has exposed a lot of radiation. It could be radiation.
Yeah.
But these are great, like, MacGuffins, because they're thrown away, really. They're not meant to land. They're not even really meant to explain anything, because I definitely think Romero is and John Russo, I should say, the two screenwriters, they're very aware of the fact of, we don't need to explain shit.
Yeah.
We've created this world.
Yeah. Everyone's already talking about it in the real world, so why don't we kind of subjugate it and use it?
Tap into that.
And just, but we're gonna focus more on our story and a creation of what's possibly going on in the world. But nobody can prove where it's coming from, so why harp on that when we can just create our movie?
Okay.
So
now,
it's,
I have to ask you a question. Because Dawn of the Dead is very famous for Romero's stance on consumerism.
Okay.
They end up in a mall, and he's just blatantly saying, look, this is where we are now as a society. It's just, abject capitalism and just gimme, and he's making a statement about that. What do you think?
Every Black Friday.
Yeah. What do you think he's making a statement of in Night of? Is it the isolation of that people are feeling isolated from the systems that are supposed to make them feel safe? Is that, because that's what I'm getting a little bit.
I don't think he had that too much just yet. I have a feeling, I mean, and this was never confirmed really or denied, but I definitely think, because if you really like look at this movie and then compare to the rest of his movies, right? So a lot of his movies I feel like were, maybe not every one of them, but a lot of them were very, very politically based, and very like what's going on around the world based, like taking subjects of that. So ironically, he, you know, not ironically I should say, he, I think this just developed as a story, and he just said, because he does repeat himself. He's like, we were just a bunch of guys that wanted to make this movie.
Yeah.
And we sought out to do just that, and you know, and they accomplished that and so much more. But I feel like there's politics in making a movie, clearly.
It's inescapable. Yeah, it's inescapable.
They're like, every odd is against you. Everyone is saying, no, you can't do this. Everyone's trying to change that. So I have a feeling, if I could take a guess, is making this movie, this experience, I have a feeling taught him a lot. Because one thing that he does talk about, and I'll segue into this now, because I really, really wanted to talk about Dwayne Jones.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, who plays Ben. He's like the main character. He was written. They happened to hire Dwayne Jones. I think he was just recommended, and they said, like, yeah, this guy's in acting. I think he had actor parents too, if not both of them, at least one of them. So he kind of already had this, like, growing up on movie sets. So he, you know, and he openly admits it. He's like, literally, Dwayne Jones was the most experienced person we had in order to make the movie. Now, Dwayne Jones, his character was written as a truck driver, and he was just angry all the time. That's what they had. Angry truck driver, hell-bent on surviving, no matter what it took. That was what he was on paper.
Okay.
And one of their other friends, one of their other guys, was going to play him. But then Dwayne Jones got introduced, and they liked him right away. They're like, he was a solid guy, he was very sweet.
And he's a great actor.
So, and he carries the movie very, very well. So
definitely. Such presence.
Yeah, exactly. And so they technically didn't change anything on the script. That's what they said. Like, you're a truck driver and you're angry. He's like, all right, well, how about this? So he tweaked his character a little bit. And honestly, they were just happy with it. They thought he was professional, and he treated the work seriously. Okay. And that's kind of like all they asked for. And they were just like, you know what, this is good. You do you. So Dwayne definitely created Ben somewhat more into his own. Now, he did have concerns, okay? Because now, if we remember, or if you haven't watched the movie, you'll see this happen. He, in an attempt, nothing sinister, but in an attempt just to calm her down, because in the 60s and the 50s, if a woman was going haywire, he just slapped her across the face, and it was acceptable.
We're looking at you, Sean Connery. Possibly in hell.
But there's a scene where he has to calm Barbara down, who now gets out of her shock and starts freaking out, right? And he slaps her across the face.
I mean, he must, honestly, let's just call it out. He must have been shitting that was going to be on film.
A black man
in 68
slapping a white woman.
Yeah.
In 1968.
Yeah.
He absolutely said that.
Yeah.
He said it to them, and like, guys,
could we not do this scene?
And there, and Romero was just like, we should have listened to him a little bit more, but no, he to them on paper. Dwayne Jones was I'm sorry, Ben, my apologies. Ben was written as a colorless character. Everybody technically was colorless. Like, this is your character, this is what's happening, and scene.
Yeah.
So Dwayne Jones was the only one that transitioned a character, and, you know, definitely made it more of his own, honored the originally written one as best he could, and went along with everything else. But he did express concerns, and they were like, nah, man, it'll be fine, it'll be great, it's all right.
Now,
it's okay.
Romero claimed and stood by it all the way until his death that Dwayne Jones got the part because Dwayne Jones was the best actor.
Yes.
And that color had nothing to do with it.
No, not at all.
So, with that in mind, and I believe George. Yeah. But with
they didn't see his concerns at all.
But that's the thing, is with that in mind, and you know what, I could see that you're myopic, you have tunnel vision, you're the screenwriter, you're the director, you really just want to get your vision on screen, and maybe it's more of a micro view instead of a macro view. I could totally get that.
Yeah.
Being caught up in the moment. But then, you have the finished product, and then it's released, and then you have to deal with the controversy of that, the controversy of the movie itself, because it freaked people the fuck out.
And think about how it ended. Now, another crazy thing.
Oh, well, yeah, we got to get to that.
So yeah, we're going to jump around a little bit, because again, if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead by now...
We can't help you.
So at the end, obviously...
Well, the scariest thing in this
survives, black man gets shot.
Yeah.
Right? By...
The scariest thing in the movie, for me, outside of flesh-eating ghouls, is your neighbors walking around with weapons.
Yeah.
You know, like this ad hoc posse put together.
Chief McClellan, how's everything going?
Oh, things aren't going too bad. Men are taking it pretty good. You want to get on the other side of the road over there?
Chief, do you think we'll be able to defeat these things?
Well, we killed 19 of them today right in this area. Those last 3 we caught trying to claw their way into an abandoned shed. They must have thought somebody was in there. There wasn't, though. We heard them making all kind of noise. We came over and beat them off, blasted them down.
So, like, it's just the blatant disregard for human life, which through the course of the movie has become the most precious thing of holding on to actual living, breathing human life, and then for it to be thrown away so haphazardly and so cruelly at the end. I mean, that's where Night of the Living Dead is melodramatic that it can be. That ending will always be so impactful and shocking to me, no matter how many times I see it. And then when Romero goes from the ending of Ben getting killed to those photographs, which we're looking at you, Wes Craven, you absolutely, paid homage to. I'm not going to say steal, because you used it so well for the photographs in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And of course, I'll even give Craven props for using the visuals with the sound design of those old-fashioned light bulbs. I mean, oh my God, it just gives me goosebumps right now. But for that ending of going from Ben's death to the photographs, and it's just so cold, and it just hits you with a ton of bricks.
Yeah, and so now, after they finish the film, right, and they have it wrapped up, and they're like, we have our movie, and they're gonna go now. They're gonna showcase it.
Okay.
Do you know what fucking happens?
What?
The assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, in '68. You're right.
So
my God.
So they're like, okay, we're about to show this movie.
Oh my God, you're right.
So now that, like I said, I think the politics came later, right? Because now, like, they finally get to a studio where they have to showcase this, and they had to fight to keep that ending. They were like, how about we change it? And they tried asking them to change the ending, and they were adamant to keep it despite all of this.
Thank God they
said,
stuck
like,
their ground.
no, it was supposed to be the irony of I know, because nobody knows the rules, nobody knows what's going on. All we know is that we want to survive, and we want to this. I don't know if they meant anything by it. Like, it's just supposed to be ironic. That's what they wanted to go with. That's how they wanted to end it, and they had to fight for that.
Wow.
Because of hiring Dwayne Jones, because he was a black man, and because literally Martin Luther King Jr. literally got assassinated, like, the day that they were taking it to the studio to showcase it. So now, I know that I've probably been talking a good 20 minutes.
No, this is fascinating.
To answer your question.
I'm loving it.
So now I believe all this experience, the politics got into Romero after the fact.
I am going to agree with you.
If you showcase all of his movies, And I think I think going into like, I don't even know like the right words right now because I think I just blew my own mind. Because I really didn't really think about it until we started talking about it.
But you know what? But
I think his experience honestly segued the way he thought about his remaining stories, especially this franchise, if you will.
How could it not, though, from what you're talking about?
How the world reacts.
So this movie's shot.
Panic.
This movie's in the can. They have the ending that is the true original ending, and then MLK gets assassinated. How could it not shape Romero's vision? As a filmmaker in general, because then we're talking about 4 years later, he's making The Crazies, and that's a definitive statement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally titled The Crazies.
Yes.
But then we're going to Dawn of the Dead, and he's making a very conscious choice to continue the lineage of his protagonist of being a black man. I always mess up Ken Fiore's last name. It is Fiore, Foree, I believe it is. Anyway, he's such a dynamic presence in Dawn of the Dead. So I love that. I love that. And then, we already mentioned it, that Romero is absolutely making a huge statement about consumerism. It's just interesting that, and I agree with you completely, that now you do have that lens to all of his movies going forward. Maybe not, I'll frame it this way. All of the movies that he has written, all of the movies that are his creations, because then you've got movies like Monkey Shines, and you've got movies like Creepshow, and those are they're just straight up genre fare, and they're really incredibly well made. There's really no political aspect that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure someone will find it and call me out on it, but I don't really feel like there's much of a political aspect to, say, Creepshow.
Right.
Or that isn't already there from Stephen King's work, I should say.
A majority of them, yes.
Damn, I can't wait to do Creepshow now.
I can't wait, I know.
Oh, boy. All right, November, let's not rush the year. Yeah. November will be here soon enough.
We do have other exciting things to talk about, too.
Oh,
so,
boy, do
I'm
we.
excited.
But I love the point that you made, and you also freaked me out because you dropped a couple of things that I had never really even thought about, which are kind of fleshing out the whole Night of the Living Dead experience for me that I can enjoy even more now.
That's what I mean. I have a feeling like not knowing this, rewatching this, Sinners, I think you'll see it in a different light. Or at least I hope you do. I don't know. Boy. Or don't, or just enjoy them. I don't know. Whatever.
Okay. So now, do you agree? It's a very nihilistic ending, which I am all for. Because
it goes through a lot of diehard fans will kind of walk around and be like, Cooper was right.
I mean,
the asshole of the movie was correct.
I hate to say it. I absolutely hate to say it.
Hence, but again,
but he was right.
That's the ironic, yeah.
Really do love everybody in the movie, and I know that he's pulling from local actors and probably like local theater, but everybody does a really good job in it. Everybody is for their own. They're all playing a trope, Dwayne Jones is the steely-jawed protagonist, and he's got his head on his shoulders. And Barbara, is Judith O'Dea?
Yes. Yes.
She has the most interesting arc for me because she starts the film and we follow her and we get to the house, and then of course we're introduced to the other characters in that setting, but she goes into legitimate shock for a good part of the film.
A lot of the film, it's like her moment is like really more so in the beginning.
And then
she's kind of like just sits on the couch a little bit, just
which is so understandable.
Yeah,
I mean, her brother. Every single character in this movie is dealing with the fact that now the dead are coming back to life. That's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
I mean, there aren't snacks in the vending machine at work, and I'm ready to call up HR. Can I take long-term disability? So this is a lot. You know? So her arc made a lot of sense to me. The arc that does make a lot of sense to me is actually the person who's got it all together and is like, this is what we need to do. We need to board up these windows and conserve our food and ration it out. I would be like, I think I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
You know, like, how would I do that? The most effective way? But then the tragedy of Barbara is that when she actually does kind of snap out of it and then is helping, that's when she gets killed.
Yeah.
Like, she actually becomes a functioning member in our little band of survivors, and then
again irony.
Fucking Harry, I mean, he did happen to be right that the windows and the doors wouldn't hold, and she actually has the most troublesome and gruesome death for me in the movie.
Okay.
Outside of Ben getting killed is the most tragic, but she gets pulled into the crowd. Now, in '68,
Does she get pulled by her brother?
Yeah,
she does, right?
Because she can't.
You see his gloves.
Yeah, I mean, you literally see the two hands circle her neck, and then you see him in frame, and then she sees him, and it's that moment of hesitation where she had the moment to push him and save herself, but because it's her brother, it's that moment too late, and then he drags her onto the porch, and she gets encircled by all the zombies, and it's really gruesome. You know, it's '68, so you don't see anything, but it's just, you know what's going to happen.
The like, not implementation. That's not the right
execution
word.
Of the scene.
Yes.
And then you've got Tom and Judy, who actually die. Again, like I think I would die in the movie. They make the run in the truck to the gas tank, and there's the flaming torch from the table leg is in the back of the damn truck, and in their panic and in their haste, they shoot the lock off the gas pump, and he's gassing up the truck, but then he's so panicked that the gas gets everywhere, and they blow themselves up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's not... This is the shit that would actually happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this is the shit that eventually did happen in a lot of episodes of The Walking Dead, where people get killed for their own... I don't want to call it stupidity, because how the hell else would you function in a society gone amok? But they die because of their own, like, thoughtfulness. Because it's panic and anxiety and fear are the three motivating factors.
And again, like, what are the rules? Who's to say that you're right?
Who knows?
And not right? Like, it's you know, like it's like okay, so like Cooper and Ben were the ones butting heads, right? So Cooper, who ended up being right, I get it. But like, but Ben, boarded up the windows. He bought them time.
He did.
It's not that they granted they wouldn't hold, but he definitely bought you time.
I won't say Cooper's right definitively, because Ben is right as well. He's like, you're in the basement. There's only one way in, one way out.
Yeah.
If they do happen to get through your door, that's it. Like, at least here we have room to move. Ben's problem was there were just too many windows in the farmhouse.
It's a lot to go by, yeah.
Look, Sinners, it was a great selling point because the house got a lot of natural light. The downside is it is just a zombie smorgasbord.
Yeah.
So it didn't.
Fun facts about the basement. That was a set. The house.
It was in the basement of the farmhouse?
Didn't have a basement.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, the
Okay.
actual farmhouse. Yeah, so just I don't know. Has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to say that.
The magic of movie making. Oh my god! I mean, it is just a classic. But again, my love and admiration for this movie is just the incredible world it created.
I agree.
And I think, look, there are two things about George Romero that I know for a fact. Well, no, there's one thing I know for a fact. There's one thing that I'm just going to assume. And the one thing I know for a fact is George absolutely would have loved more money from his properties. He was not shy about saying it, of just, this fucker didn't make any money. But
again, it depends on how you look at it, because what if he did trademark it? It wouldn't have gotten, I think, the flow that it ended up getting, of everybody seeing it and everybody going,
No.
In one aspect. Who knows if we would have gotten the...
This was the way it was supposed to have worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, this is the way that we're lucky
He
that
didn't
this
get
was the
paid
way it
for it,
worked
but
out.
he got a legacy out of it.
But the second thing, there's just an assumption on my part, is I think George Romero would be, and probably was, and would be now, just so excited and tickled about what he created and where it's gone globally.
Yeah.
You know? Because that's, for me now, this isn't my favorite subgenre, but it's a subgenre that I will always hunt out. Good zombie movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what's your favorite subgenre? If you, I don't mean to spring this on you, but
like a horror subgenre?
Yeah.
Oof. That's difficult, honestly.
Mine's creature feature.
Okay.
Mine's creature feature.
Okay.
Which I guess this could technically be like an offshoot of.
In a way, in a sense, yeah. You can kind of look at that as a creature feature, in a sense.
What do you think, though? I love a monster. I guess that's what I just love a monster.
Okay. I think, I don't know. I mean, I definitely like a good dramatic movie. Like I do like things that have poetry.
Okay.
And you know, where like every angle, like certain shots, like not necessarily mean something, but just
beautifully
like
framed.
Yeah.
Artistry.
Yes. Yeah, and granted, I've seen movies that that look pretty, but like the story itself doesn't execute.
Who's your favorite director then?
It does have to be a good package.
I
don't have one.
all right. But wait, then what
I don't have one.
If this are the parameters that you're setting up, then what are some of your favorite films?
Oh, there's too many.
We're
talking about them.
These answers are so political. Sinners. She's ducking and bobbing and weaving these questions.
Yes.
I'm desperately trying to box you in a corner.
There's way too many. There honestly.
All right.
I think those moments will arise for certain movies and certain films that I think it'll pop out as we talk about it. But yeah, I don't know. I can't hone in on just one. I really can't.
Horror can be crazy though.
There's too much. Because again, a good creature feature is fun. A monster is fun.
But you could also watch horror seasonally. There are just so many variables that can point you that can point you in a direction of, oh yeah, I need to watch this now, or yeah, this is the time of year where I watch this, or even holidays. And I don't know, maybe, look, there could very well be two people in a basement right now doing a podcast on rom-coms, and they're saying the same damn thing, which would thrill me.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Or someone's doing a podcast on historical movies, and they're like, yeah, these are the times of year that you have to do it. But horror there are just so many different variables. It could just be like a moment. Horror is heavily nostalgic. I do feel like that plays a huge hand in it as well. Of you go back to your childhood and you're like, these movies made me feel good.
Yeah.
And this happened to be the time of year where I watched that movie, or
or genuinely scared you, and that's so being scared. It's a thrill, right? So it's when you're genuinely that scared. It's what more moment do you feel more alive?
Okay, now put yourself, let's say you're 18, it's 1968, and, well, shit, I mean, if it's 68 and you're 18 and you're a male, you got a lot more things to worry about than Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. You got some real-world fears.
It was heavy. It was a heavy time.
I mean, you're waiting for your number to be called up in the draft. Mm-hmm. You would be actively looking for escapism, and this would have been just catnip, So there's that. I'm sorry to bum everybody out. Shit. I just deflated myself in real time. I'm like, oh man.
Oh man.
Oh, why did I do that? But with that aside,
well, look what it's created.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
and that brings us to now.
All right, so let's switch gears, because I wanted to get into what Romero has given us. So we have the zombie subgenre, and now it's a global gift. So some of the movies that I wanted to point out, which are favorites of mine.
Sure.
And, we've talked about Return of the Living Dead. Sinners, you've already listened to that episode. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but there's what I really wanted to point out were the foreign films, the international zombie movies. So I mentioned Train to Busan, South Korea. Sinners, if you haven't watched Train to Busan,
it's a great film.
It's a really good film. Mm-hmm. It's kinetic. I mean, this movie picks up, and like a train, it just does not stop.
Goes, yeah.
So good. But you got Peter Jackson. He does Dead Alive.
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand. Sinners, if you haven't seen Dead Alive or Brain Dead by Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, seek him out.
Great films.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, how about this? Then you got Lucio Fulci is like, hey, George, hold my beer.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite zombie films too. With the clay zombie. The guy fights a shark.
He fights a fucking shark. Also, one of the best practical effects, the eye and the splinter.
That is so. I want to hold off on that because we're
right.
gonna totally. We need to do that movie, and I absolutely want to break down that scene.
All right, so we're fleshing out November right now. We're going to do Creepshow. We're going to do Zombie 2.
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
Zombie as well.
Yep. Zombie.
There is no Zombie 2.
It's not called Zombie 2?
What do you mean? Lucio Fulci's?
I thought that movie was called Zombie 2, and there was no Zombie 1. We're gonna have to. All right.
I'm good.
I'll bet. I think I'm wrong, but let's bet a beer. Let's bet a beer. Who's ever wrong has to buy the other one a beer.
Okay.
Shaun of the Dead. Come on. Edgar Wright.
I like Angry Orchard, Sean.
Yeah. Son of a bitch! I know I've already lost. God damn you. Okay. Here's a little bit of a deep cut, which I don't know if you've seen. You ever see The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue?
No.
It's on Shudder. Sinners, check it out. I didn't know about it, so I'm not being a smarty pants. I caught it on Shudder just on a whim. I was probably supposed to be doing work. If anyone from work were listening to this, that's a joke. I was definitely doing my work. And I was hunting through Shudder, and the poster, like the screen grab, caught my eye, and I put it on. It's a real good movie.
Like the movie poster?
Yeah.
I love a good movie poster.
Right? Wait until we have merch in 2042. It's going to be epic.
It's gonna blow your socks off.
Get your pennies together now, sinners. Then you got, just real quickly, you have Dead Snow from Norway and Dead Snow 2. Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2 are so...
I haven't seen the second one.
It's so good.
In its entirety.
It's so good.
I did really enjoy the first one.
It takes the craziness of the first one, and it just is like, if you thought that was crazy...
Punch it up a notch?
There's a scene where a zombie grabs the protagonist and throws him through the ceiling of the house. He goes through the floor and then falls down the steps, and the zombie picks him up and hits him in the face. I mean, it's seriously like it's like a living cartoon.
I need to see what that's streaming on. I need to watch that now.
Fucking good.
I might go home and watch it. Not gonna lie.
Oh my god, it's so good. But all right, continuing with Fulci, we got The Beyond, which is technically zombie as well, right? Okay. Maybe even House by the Cemetery would be zombie. It's zombie, right?
I think so.
Shit, man. Now our Fulci is getting pretty fleshed out. Wordplay.
I love when you say it and then it hits you like a second later. Like, oh, you see what I did there?
I'm so proud of myself for the stupidest things, sinners. So, but I'll admit it. From France, The Night Eats the World came out a couple of years ago. Some people don't love it. I really enjoyed it. Then you got Cargo with Martin Freeman from a couple of years ago. That was Australian. Blood Quantum from Canada came out on Shudder just a couple of years ago. That was also, I don't know why, but that was also a little bit of divided. People either really liked it or really did not like it. I thought it was good.
Okay.
Juan of the Dead from, believe it or not, Cuba.
Juan of the Dead, I enjoyed that film so much more than I thought I was going to.
Freaking movie's funny.
It's hilarious.
It's got a great sense of humor.
I don't know what I was expecting when it first came on. It's funny.
It definitely takes you on a ride.
It's a ride. For
all right,
sure.
so Want of the Dead, check out, and then I'll just finish up quickly with the U.S. ones. You know, we all know about Return of the Living Dead.
The franchise, yeah.
What was the other U.S. one that I wanted to mention? The Dead franchise. I mean, the Living Dead franchise. Anyway, I wanted to finish with two of my favorites, which you might fight me on because of 28 Days and Weeks Later. Would you consider Wreck and Wreck 2 zombie movies?
No.
Or those?
No,
are those virus movies?
I think that's virus. I personally think they were virus.
I think you're right.
I think so.
Oh, you're totally right. Because then we find out it's not even a virus; it's a possession virus.
You're
completely right.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I think only in the original, right? The second one I think was more virus. The American remake took, because that's what I remember. Like the huge difference was, right? So like they're all practically shot by shot remakes, but the original was really religious based. Where I feel like that was taken out of the American version.
It was 100% taken out.
And so I do think that one is technically more virus based, where the original was possession virus based.
Okay. And
so,
then
so yes and no on that.
I agree with you. That is, it can't be zombie, it's virus. So even if it's possession or regular, like a disease.
If you want to break down the rules, they're technically still alive. They're not themselves anymore.
They're not eating people. I think the definitive thing is, do they eat them? And they don't. So that is not a zombie movie. But is it a movie that is well worth your time? If you haven't seen Wreck or Wreck 2, I don't even know why you're listening to this podcast. Go out and watch it right now. But also finish the podcast.
But stick with us.
Don't be a jerk. All right. The last one I wanted to mention, it's technically... Oh, you know what? I was just about to spoil it, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to say, Japan, if you haven't watched One Cut of the Dead, it's a lot of fun, and you should definitely check it out. And the cool thing is, it got remade in France. I don't think it's called One Cut of the Dead, or maybe it is in French. But they did a remake of that movie, and it comes out this year. Or maybe in 24, so we'll have to check that out. But that was just my point, was that here we have this movie, it creates this whole world, and now incredibly creative people are kind of picking up the torch. It's getting passed along, and then they do their thing, and then they pass to the next country, and then they do their thing.
Yeah.
And now we have...
It's interesting, their takes on them, yeah.
Now we have this like huge, delicious sandbox of movies in this world, and I really do love it.
Subjugated from 1968.
Okay, now we're just coming up on a little bit of over an hour, but I just want to talk just for 5 minutes. We'll box ourselves in here. Just do want to talk about the TV and the cable world that George created.
Okay.
Now, of course, we have the Walking Dead, and it's multiple spin-offs, and it's still continuing to this day, with the Daryl Dixon just dropped on AMC. But then you have offshoots of it, like one of the most popular shows last year was The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that is a not a zombie, that's more of a fungal infection.
Yeah, that's a completely different story, but same atmosphere.
But heavy into end of the world.
Yes.
We have, monsters among us. Anything else that comes to mind that stands out? The Walking Dead sucks up so much oxygen in the room. I can't really think of anything else. Like, what would come out that would, like, battle it? It's such a behemoth. I can't think of like, people like, hey, I've got a really great idea for a zombie show, and every single person to be like, are you kidding me, man? So... But
they're still trying, and then I see them today, and they work.
I'm waiting for
Well, some of them do, some of them don't.
Movie or TV, I don't care, or even, a book. I am definitely waiting for the next, like, where we're headed to next with it.
Yeah.
There was a great comic years ago, I think it was called Dead World.
Okay.
And, of course, the comic was what the title suggests. It was Romero's world taken over by zombies. So, and the zombies were now sentient. they had completely evolved, and they had their own colonies and their own society, and then really they viewed humanity as the disease that needed to be stamped out.
Gotcha.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So stuff like that. Like, I'm just waiting for...
humanity gets tested for things of this nature. As they have played that a lot on that. And it's not even just zombies too. I feel like any outbreak type of situation, any global. I mean, look at what happened in 2020. Our own humanity. I think
we brushed up against it a little bit too close.
Just a little bit, So it's an interesting factor because it's definitely something you cannot ignore. It comes into play.
That was. Did you hear that, sinners? This is the beginning of our horror movie. That was Shannon's first tiny little cough. And now now fast forward 3 episodes from now, we hit record and we're just going,
send more paramedics.
More brains. Oh, damn. All right, so, sinners, we're going to wrap it up here. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode because you'll be bouncing off a couple of weeks prior our Return of the Living Dead episode. So they're not back-to-back, but this is a nice little, we're putting the pieces together here.
Yes.
So, as
excited
always,
for spooky season.
Thanks so much for joining us. Just wanted to mention our socials just before we bounce, because we would love for you to follow us on Instagram. You can find us at Cinefulcuts. Remember, gang, it's CIN.FUL-CUTS on Instagram. So it's spelled a little differently, but that's where you can find us. Cinefulcuts, Instagram. We're posting. I'm so proud of my partner. She's doing audiograms now, and I love to see them. So if you're really sick of hearing our podcast, wait until you go on Instagram and you get little snippets of us there. So, as always, go out there and seek out some good horror, and we'll talk to you next week. Shannon, take us away.
That's a cut.
Yeah!